Hi, welcome to Film Ladder, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on film industry jobs. My name is Lexi, and I chat with creatives on what they do, how they got there, and how to excel.
I am so excited to introduce today's guests. They have worked their way up to being an editor. Their credits include Griselda, Narcos Mexico, and The Abandons. Joaquin Elizondo, welcome to Film Ladder.
Hey, Lexi, thanks for having me. Thanks for the invite. It's great to be here.
I'm so excited, and it is so cool to have you on because, we met a couple years ago when I found you as a mentor, and you have Hollywood editing mentor, and it was so great because I don't know if it was typical, but I came to you and I was like, hey, I'm fresh out of college. I don't know what actually a career in this industry looks like. Can you help me navigate that?
Yeah, well, exactly. I didn't either, and that's the thing. That's why one of the reasons why I created it, because I had those same questions, say, when I was trying to break into film and TV.
Yeah.
So totally understand. I went through it myself, so I totally understood the, how it felt, and understood, again, just all the confusion that can come with it, right? And stress and frustration.
Yeah, so much. And even now, I'm sure people really are going through it, but I'm so excited to have you talk about editing today.
I could always talk about that anytime. So again, thanks for having me here.
Yeah, of course. So go ahead and give us, what is an editor?
An editor, in the end, an editor is a storyteller, right? What we do is we craft stories through the manipulation of, picture, sound and picture, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're, it's, as they say, editing is, and I agree with it, it's the final rewrite. So after, say in this case, and look, there's different types of editing, right? And what I do is I work mostly in scripted television, right? And so obviously there's a script, they go off and production shoots, what's on the script. And obviously there's many departments, art department, cinematography. So many, parts to this, right? And then at the end, at the end of the pipeline is we have editorial and post-production in general, right? But in editorials where we put everything together, right? Everything that has been shot, we're now, assembling it and moving it around, right? To craft the best story possible. Obviously, then we were working with, sound, music, and visual effects to kind of bring it all together and deliver, say, in this case, a scripted TV series that you see on your favorite streaming platform. Yeah.
No, absolutely. So many different parts that you're putting together. I want to get into, then how soon are you hired on in a project?
That can vary. Sometimes you get a call months in advance when, this, for example, new show is coming up or the next season of a show that you've worked on, and you kind of get booked. Other times I've been hired literally like on a Friday and I'm work on a Monday, like that quick. Yeah. So it can vary. And sometimes, depending, I guess, a lot of it depends on the budget of the project. Sometimes they'll bring you on, say, for pre-production. So you're in there in meetings with other departments, right? Discussing the series, what the tone will be of the series. And other times you're brought on literally on the first day of production. Mm. So it varies. And typically, again, it depends on the budget of the project.
Now, you're my first post-production person to have on this podcast. So can you kind of break down, as we get into what a day looks like or a week looks like, kind of the different roles in post-production that then lead up to being an editor?
Well, and there's post-production as a whole, and post-production typically includes, where I work in is editorial, right? Mm-hmm. And then where we actually do the editing. And then there's the sound department, then the music department, and color and VFX. And so they typically do the finishing, right? So for example, mm-hmm. what happens is that during production, as they are shooting, in this case, we'll see a scripted television show. Yeah. We're getting scenes, editorial is getting scenes every day. And so we get them typically out of order, right? So maybe mm-hmm. one day we get, scenes, 7, 20, and, 13, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And maybe the next day we don't get any scenes. And then the day after that we get now 5 scenes. But in the end, you're getting, at some point by the end of production, you're going to get a full episode that you as an editor then start to assemble based obviously on the script. And then in our case, in saying union projects, we're working towards building an editor's cut. So that's the interpretation of the script by the editor. And then after that, then you move on to working with the director. So then they get a couple days to work on their cut, and then we deliver then the director's cut. After that, then that cut is sent now to the producers, and then the producers get their cut, right? So then they get the producer's cut. And then that cut then goes to the studio or the network, and then they get their cut. And eventually you land on, after that, then you land on a lock cut, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what is then delivered to the other departments in post-production. Say, then sound starts to work on the sound effects and whatnot, Foley. And then the composer starts to do the original music, and VFX do their thing, and then color, of course. And then eventually that gets, obviously then delivered again, and then what you see on a streaming platform. So, an editorial, you might at some point then start working, you might not wait till you actually lock a cut till you start delivering to other departments. It kind of depends, again, on the schedule, the budget. You might start working at the same time as you're still working on a cut. You're sending stuff to these other departments for them to start working on things, right? So you don't fall behind. But again, it all depends on, it's important to understand that there's no set way, right? There might be like a foundation, like an overall kind of way of working, but it's like every show is different.
Okay. Wow. And I mean, just the amount of different cuts that you...
Let me tell you.
And there were so many questions on that. It's like, okay, so you do your interpretation or your edit cut, and then the directors, and then oftentimes, do you feel it's like the producers or, the next person that comes in, is it a completely different cut, or do they go off of the directors?
It can be, yeah. No, I mean, sometimes it's you look at the the final product, and you were like, wow, this is deviated so much from the script. Other times it didn't. But I mean, like, yeah, we're always moving scenes around, right, and taking lines of dialogue out. We're then maybe going to go shoot new scenes, right, what they call like pickups. They go say, you know what, we didn't get this scene, or we didn't get this, whatever line or anything, so let's just go shoot it, right? Again, if the budget permits it, right? Or sometimes it's a combination of the different cuts, right? Say you combine the ideas from the director's cut, from the editor's cut, and the producer's cut. I mean, we're just doing so much shuffling. At least, obviously, that's been my experience, right? But I mean, anything's possible. Yeah, I mean, at that point, again, it's a final rewrite. So you literally, it's your last chance to just kind of do what you can to again deliver that story, right, that you set out to achieve.
Yeah. Then can you kind of walk us through a day? I'm going to break it up different this time than my other podcasts, of maybe like in the middle, so you have like a couple dailies and a couple scenes, like you said, then versus, okay, now you have everything and are working with the director, and then maybe like a day of like the final things.
Yeah, so, again, I start off, when production starts, I'm getting scenes, right? And typically, what I try to do is, like, I try to not to fall behind. So any scenes that I get, I want to cut them that day, right? So that the next day when I get more scenes, I don't have to catch up, say, with the previous day's scenes. And literally that day, and I work with an assistant editor, right? I have my assistant editor, and I work with them, and for example, what I typically do is, like, I'll cut a scene and then hand it off to my assistant for them to do sound design, right? Now, this is all temp, right? Because eventually the sound department is going to do the sound, the official sound, right? But in the meantime, since we're going to be presenting all these cuts to directors, to producers, to the studio, we have to put in our own sound effects and music. And typically, while I like to do most of the music, sometimes I'll ask my assistant, hey, you want to choose the music, or you want to try, take a crack at like, putting in some music. And so we use, scores from other TV shows, from films. We maybe get, what we call needle drops, say like just, a song, right? It might be like a popular, rock song, whatever, that we might use, say, when someone's driving in a car. We want to put a song in that car. So we'll go get a song that maybe we feel is right for the scene. And so at the same time, also, we're working with, say, a music supervisor, asking them for music, for example, right? But that's typically, as we're in dailies, as we say, right? They're in production. That's what it is. We're just cutting scenes and putting them together. Eventually, I'll get my editor's cut, right? So then after production ends, I'll get like typically 3 to 4 days to really polish things And it's just all it is. My assistant and I working together to just deliver basically our editor's cut. And then so after that, once we start working with directors and producers, at that point, we're now getting notes, right? So we're not like building things necessarily from scratch. It's more like, all right, this thing works great. Like, cool, leave it alone. Or let's do this to it, right? Let's try this. And so we're at that point, then that's where we start really moving things around and trying new things, right? And so we know we have deadlines every so often, and obviously we're meeting those deadlines. But eventually, that communication, that collaboration, that maybe was with only my assistant, now again I turn to now the sound team. I turn to like the composer. Hey, can you give me, what have you worked on? Do you have any music tracks that we can try? All right, they'll send me some stuff. Hey, the sound department maybe. Hey, do you have? Could you work on this scene? Right? Could you just give it some sound? Give it like the proper sound. Okay, cool. Maybe with VFX. Hey, can you work on this shot? Could you add this plane flying by? Stuff like that. But it's all usually at this point it's kind of temp, right? It's just kind of stuff to get in the cut, so that we can present it to anyone that's going to watch it.
Yeah.
And eventually, though, right, the final stuff, like everything that's finalized is going to happen later once we actually have a cut that's locked, where we're saying, all right, that's it. We're not touching it anymore. This is our story. Now, okay, go off and do your thing.
Yeah. When do you get the sense of like the tone of every scene? Is that in the tone meetings that are happening in pre-production, if you get to be on those? Or like when you get that scene, did you already do a script breakdown? Or how do you go about understanding that before you get the influences of others?
I think, you start getting an idea for the project or for scenes or what the show is. I think since the interview, you read a script, and you might get, just one script for like the first episode, or you might get the scripts for the entire series, right? Mm-hmm. And of course with your interview, typically would say in TV, it's mostly with a showrunner, so a producer, and probably, throwing out ideas, but you're talking about like, say, what the showrunner envisions, right? And maybe you throw out your ideas from just reading a script. But for me, it's like, it's not until you get that footage. It's like, I guide myself, through what I'm seeing every day, literally through dailies, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, what are the performance telling me? What is the environment telling me? And so maybe if I had an idea about, say, a scene or about the show from when I was reading the script, well, maybe now it's changed, right? Now that I'm actually getting like the actual footage, right? And that transforms. I mean, and then as you start working with, say, a director or producer, and you start throwing out other ideas, and they start pitching ideas, you pitch ideas. And so it might be something completely different than, say, what was originally discussed, say, in an interview. But for me, I rely a lot on the footage. What is it telling me, right?
Yeah. I feel like that's good insight, too, of like how you cut it, and then showing the director this, and whether they envision that or not, you're like, this is the footage I received and my first initial thoughts of it.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. I think as an editor, again, this is my way of working, right? But it's like, I take the script and I said, this is what I got to present, right? I got to take the script and I got to present it, right? I can't go too like off the script and like go do crazy ideas.
Right.
But it's also important to take big swings, right? And kind of like be like, all right, I'm going to try something here, right? Maybe it's a little bit bold, but it's worth trying, right? And that, we can go deeper into that, but I'm just saying, like, you have to also be able to know who you're working with and kind of read the room, right? Or also what I like to do, for example, is kind of maybe like, just kind of go by the script and maybe go by conversations I've had, but then like as an alternate version, I'll do like kind of something really bold and be like, all right, hey, I did this, but you want to check this out?
Yeah.
And then, maybe they'll say, what, let's go with that. Or like, no, I like what you did over here. Let's keep that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm always trying things, and it might not be in the cut that I'm presenting, but I'm keeping it, like, say, in my back pocket and be like, all right, like, you, again, reading the rooms, being like, all right, this is what I tried. It might not be what you intended, but check it out. You never know.
Right. I'm so curious just with deadlines, and I know sometimes just film can just be so brutal in the littlest time available to do something. Do you find that you get to be creative in that way a lot of the times, or is it sometimes hard to have the time to create different edits?
Well, I mean, I will say that I'm big on time management, and I think I'm really good at it. So I am able to, I've been able to kind of create my time, that time to, try things,
Yeah.
Again, by what I said earlier, by like, say, for example, like not falling behind, by staying always, staying up to camera, as they say. It's like, you're cutting those scenes that you're getting every day. and not falling behind, right?
Yeah.
And just looking at the schedule, for example, kind of looking ahead and being like, all right, I'm going to get a bunch of scenes like at the end of the week. I better catch up now, or like, I better kind of really push it right now. Or maybe I'm getting a lot of scenes at the beginning of the week, and at the end of the week, I'm not going to get any scenes. So I know that I have a little bit of free time, say at the end of the week, right? So it's all these things that I'm always looking at. And I'm able to just manage my time and say, all right, I can dedicate a lot of time to this right now. Or maybe I just do like a little like a rough pass, just build it, and then I'll get to it. I'll do like a really fine tuning like next week,
Yeah.
So that's, again, what I personally do.
Yeah.
And I think time management is really, really important, not only to say try out ideas, be creative, but like also just kind of for your mental health.
Yeah.
Because this is a very demanding job, and it can be long hours. So I don't like to stay up late, honestly.
I mean, I feel like I can deep dive into that even. So usually we work 12 hours. Is that true for editors as well?
That is what is on our union contract, as far as like, we work 12-hour days.
With you want to go to bed at night, is there a certain like thing in your head that you have to get done of just, okay, I have to make sure everything I got scene wise at least has a cut before I go home? Is that kind of what you're going off of?
Yeah, well, I mean, I at least want to have something built, right? Sometimes, for example, I'll get like really complicated scenes, or like I'll get a big action scene that they'll shoot over a week. And so I'm not going to have all the, say it's Tuesday, and it's like, oh, okay, I don't have all the pieces.
Yeah.
But like I'm kind of obviously doing my, or at least building the sections that I did get. And then, maybe I'll go a step ahead and like, all right, I know I'm going to get tomorrow, I'm going to get this, again, talking about an action scene, for example. All right, they're going to blow up this car tomorrow, let's say.
Yeah.
All right, well, maybe what can I do right now? Well, I'm going to go and get like all these sound effects, so I don't have to waste time looking for that later. So right now I have time, so I'm going to go look for all these sound effects. I'm going to go look for, these, muzzle flashes, or, things like that. What can I do? I always wanted to be doing something. And how can I be ahead of the game? Even if I don't have necessarily all the pieces, say, with me. But yeah, I guess every day I have goals. Like I want to make sure I finish this scene, and at least it's built. And maybe I don't get to fine tune it, but then I'll do that like tomorrow or the next week. I'll just make sure to do it at some point. But every day I have to make sure I build something.
Do you not get to talk to the director until it's their time and their window to edit? Like, say you're looking at the dailies or you're editing a scene and something wasn't shot, or you have a question about something that you're not understanding. Do you get to talk to them, or do you have to go to like your post producer and whatnot?
So I make sure when I get hired, I reach out to the director, say my first day of work or before I start work. And I just say, hey, I'm Joaquin, I'm going to be editing, these episodes, and I'm here if you need anything. And I just kind of start opening that line of communication.
Yeah.
And so sometimes the thing is that in TV especially, like directors are busy. They're super busy, right? Yeah. So sometimes you might not hear from them till you get to work with them on their director's cut. Or sometimes they'll reach out and say, hey, how did that look? Can you send me that scene tomorrow, or can you send it to me once you're done? I mean, like for example, like Griselda, I was sending scenes to our director, Andy, I think because I was doing the first episode, and I was sending probably scenes every day to him. Wow. And so I would send scenes, and he would give me notes. But he would give me notes, and then I would be getting the scenes, the next batch of scenes, right? So I was always trying to stay up to camera and cut those dailies, cut those scenes, but also do notes on the previous scenes, right? So again, it's like you gotta be good at time managing your time,
Yeah.
And in that case, in that particular project, I had a ton of communication with Andy, right? And then say other projects, I didn't speak with the director, say till we worked together, for the director's cut. So it varies.
Wow. And then when everything's said and done, is that the final cut? Is that when it's like we're locked in, now it goes off to, like you were saying, with sound and color and whatnot? Are you still involved in any more of the editing process once it's locked?
I mean, like, that's the thing. It's, it's never like truly locked, right? I mean, like, there's always something, but I mean, like, there's been cases that, I'm on the mix stage, and for example, let's say at that point we're reviewing like the sound, the music, and then they'll be like, hey, oh my God, we got to change this song, right? Or we want to try this. So we'll open up, as they say, the edit, and we'll make a change, right? So things come up. Sometimes they don't, but sometimes, yeah. I mean, like things can come up last minute, and whether it be editorial or not, right? So, I mean, sometimes it's a music. Usually, a lot of it can be music and like sound. Sometimes a VFX shot, or so things definitely come up at the end. Once you think it's over, you'll get a call. At least for me, it hasn't happened a lot, but I mean, it happens.
So you usually know your end date. Is that like a hard cut? Like this is the final deadline, or is it kind of fluid?
Yeah, that when I get my rap date, I know that's like I typically add like a month to it because it's never. I mean, but to this point, I don't think I've rapped on the day that they tell me that, oh, you'll be done, say whatever this day. I don't think it's ever happened. No.
Wow.
No. So I mean, yeah. I mean, and that varies. I mean, sometimes, you'll stay a couple weeks, and sometimes you'll stay a couple extra months. You know. So yeah, that kind of goes within like kind of like also like being an editor and like kind of planning your life. It could be. I mean, as you probably know, with working just in general in film, right? I mean, it's like it's a little tough. But yeah, for me, it's like, well, this is what it is. Yeah, I'm used to it now.
Right. It's so hard to navigate, like even time off or vacations or someone's wedding. Even you're like, I think I can make it, but sometimes you never know.
I mean, my brother just got married, and he had a civil wedding, and the show was working on move some dates around, and it's like, literally, I think, yeah, right. We were delivering our first cut to Netflix on my brother's wedding, like, oh my god, So, but anyways, I was able to go, but I had to kind of move some things around, and that's a cool thing. Like, I mean, like most people are look, we all have lives outside of work, right? It's just like. And it's just a matter of like just kind of, hey, heads up, and look, I'll get it done and it'll get delivered, but just letting you know, right? I mean, anyways, that's like another side of this job, though, right? But I mean, like, but it's just it's
the real of it.
It's exactly, yeah.
I mean, I had a similar situation. My best friend got married back home, and I was like, I don't know my last day. I'm either getting on a plane and flying like. Yeah. The day before, or I get to drive back home and spend time. I didn't know until the week of, which is how the work mostly in TV scripted narrative. And so I'm just curious the breakdown to, like you said, the director gets 3 or 4 days, correct, of their cut.
Typically, huh? Yeah.
And then it gets passed to the showrunner. It's pretty much. And how many days do they get to work with you?
I mean, it just that also just depends. I mean, like it could be a week, 2 weeks, more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they get more time than the director does.
Yeah, typically. Yeah.
And then it gets passed to the studio, and they have their notes as well. Correct.
Yeah, and that also kind of takes. It can take a while, or it depends on say the schedule when the show needs to come out. Especially now with like, say with streaming. There's no like air dates, right? I mean, like it just kind of comes out when they decide it comes out. So that's the thing working with streaming, which I've done since I started working on this. Is just that there's never like really like an air date. So you just kind of keep working, which is a good thing.
Yeah, correct for sure. I'm just curious: is studio typically quick to get to give notes back? Like I'm thinking, okay, you kind of know your end date, but I'm sure you're like, you pass off the edit and you're like just waiting now for the notes. Do those come quick?
A couple days, I would say. I mean, typically, a couple of days.
And it's like you have to listen to them, correct? Is the studio like that says all end all kind of thing?
That's I would say a conversation, a negotiation with the producers and the studio. So basically for me as an editor, for example, it's like they being the producers mostly will be like, hey, all right, focus on this. And so I'll just do that, right? I'll do those notes or, and then everything else is either they're trying to, have discussion again about it or, and then, or it just doesn't get done or whatever, but that's kind of like up to them to decide,
Okay.
Yeah.
So pretty much you're always kind of listening to the showrunner. Is that correct?
In TV, you are. So that's the thing in TV, and that's the big difference between TV and film, is that TV is a more a producer's medium, right? Although now what we're seeing a lot of these limited series, this kind of like film and television hybrid. So they're bringing kind of like film workflow to like TV. For example, like Griselda was one director, right? One director who directed all 6 episodes. It basically was like a 6-hour film.
Yeah.
Right. So in that case, like, the director was kind of, it was kind of more, obviously there was producers involved, but, had more a say. He was more like a supervising director, executive producer type. And in film, for the most part, again, it's more like the director's like vision, that you're collaborating with. Working for a studio, there's always a studio. Like that's, they're the ones putting up the money. So it's like, that's the thing, versus like, say, maybe indie films.
I'm sure you want to advocate maybe for certain scenes that you've really worked through with maybe both director and showrunner, and then maybe studios still just like not getting it or whatnot. Do you even have a voice in that? Or are you really just like, I'm hired here to edit and do what they need, so you don't really say anything?
No, I mean, no. One of the reasons they hire an editor is to give your voice, right?
Okay, good.
And share your opinion and to try things. And I should say that it's important for an editor to do so. Like, you don't want to be the editor that just kind of sits there and just, just does the work. It's important to be saying what you think, or to, try things, right? And show scenes. Hey, how about this? What if we try this, right? But a lot of it has to do, it's about reading the room, right? It's that's the thing. It's what kind of relationship do you have with the director, with the producer? You have to learn, kind of like feel out the environment. Is it right now the moment to share an idea, right? Maybe I should wait. Maybe things are a little tense, or whatever. Like, maybe wait till, after lunch. I don't know, or that's a big part of being an editor, is kind of navigating those politics. That's a huge part of it, I would say, because now as an editor, you are more of a manager, right? And so you have to pay attention to these things. And you're caught in between. I mean, obviously they say an editor is like a therapist, I mean, like, and it's like you're dealing with a lot of, high-level executives and creatives and whatnot, and everyone has ideas. So, and then sometimes you're right in the middle. So that's an art in itself, is like being able to manage that. Definitely, as an editor, it's important to be trying things and share your opinion. I think it's just, again, knowing what relationship you have with, say, producers and other creatives and the studio, and kind of knowing when to say what,
Yeah, that is both amazing insight and advice. You being a therapist, like just trying to edit, but I also have to manage all of these emotions.
I mean, like, I didn't know a lot of this stuff. I thought editing was just, I'm sitting in front of my computer, and just plugging away, hitting keys and being creative and having fun. And it is fun. But I'm just saying, like, that a lot of it, a huge part of this job, I'm going to say, is managing those politics.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff that does not have to do with actual, like, editing. In fact, I will say that now as an editor and doing this now for a couple of years, I think even like editing itself, like I don't even think about it too much, to me, it's like I'm more like now, again, a storyteller, more of a writer and a therapist, but it's like, I'm just saying, I guess the connection with like the technical stuff, I think as the years have gone by, for me, say, especially being an assistant editor to then an editor, I don't think about it as much. I've disconnected, like, mentally, I suppose, from like the keyboard and the computer.
Yeah.
And I'm, again, just focusing more on story.
Okay. I mean, that kind of fits into like what's a common misconception people have about the role. And I guess it's not just, you're just an editor. You are so much more, but I don't know if you have a different answer to that.
Well, yeah, no, definitely. Kind of what we were talking about earlier. It's it's like one of the misconceptions I feel about this job is that so you just it's easy. You just take a script and just follow the script, and that's it. That's your marching orders. Like I remember a while back, a friend of mine had just kind of started working in scripted TV, and I was working on a show, and then I was like, oh yep. So it's like, well, let's just do it on a weekend, right? And I was like, what? You cut an episode on a week? I mean, wow. Like, no way. Like, what are you talking? No, I mean, like, and I go, no, we take like months. Like, what do you mean months? And so, and I've heard that like a lot from people, that it's just like, oh, just kind of follow this guide and that's it. And it can be further from the truth. I mean, like, you are you are spending so much time on crafting a story, and that can mean, again, moving so much stuff around, taking scenes from other episodes, getting new scenes, you're recording new lines of dialogue, you're taking stuff out, you're putting it back in. In my last show, I mean, we did some testing, so it's like, and in films, you do see that a lot. Like, for example, like having focus groups, and doing tests and then doing notes on the results of those tests. And I mean, it could be, it's a whole process, and also I think kind of what you were saying right now, or we're talking about this, I've also heard like from people like, oh, so you just kind of like just follow instructions and just basically, do what you're told. And and I'm sure like there are those environments out there, or those maybe creatives that decide to, do it that way. Mm-hmm. But I think for the most part, I would say that no. And I mean, they rely a lot on you to have a voice.
Good. And
I think that's a huge piece of advice for people and who want to do this, is to be comfortable, sharing ideas and being comfortable with being rejected, right? Because that's the thing. You got to understand that this is not your vision, right? I mean, like, there's a director, there's a producer, there's a studio, right? That's the truth. I mean, but you contribute a lot to it, a whole lot, and maybe in more cases than others. But like, you're serving someone's vision. Yeah. And so you're gonna like, don't expect like, for example, everything that you do is gonna stay in the cut. Like, I remember actually, now you got me going on this.
Yeah, no, please.
Because now I remember talking to a group of students, and I remember the professor, or college students, and he was like, hey, can you talk to them about like getting notes? Because I guess the students were all saying like, they were like, well, I guess during their projects, doing their school projects, they're like, well, when am I gonna get to do my thing, my thing, right? And it's like, you understand, this is a collaboration, right? And also that, in the end, someone's going to say, like, this works or it doesn't. And that's okay. And you have to be really comfortable in general with rejection, both creatively and, like, professionally, in the sense of, like, getting opportunities, right? And getting, that's going to happen a lot. So you have to be really comfortable with it and saying it's just part of the process, You can't take things personal. And that's another big piece of advice that I got, is to not take things personal. It isn't. It's business, right? We're trying to deliver the best product possible, and you're trying to serve the story. So some things maybe you get right, and some things you don't. But it doesn't mean you're bad or anything, right? Right. It's just maybe it doesn't work for the story. Maybe someone else had a different idea or different vision for it,
Right. Yeah, and I think that's the nerve-wracking part of it, right? Is showing a cut and you're like, well, if they think it's bad or doesn't fit their vision, then I must be bad. But that's not true. You have to get over that.
Yeah, and I get it. I kind of, look, I'm sure when I started out, like, I felt that, right? Mm-hmm. But it's like, and then you just kind of start realizing that it's like, it's not personal. It isn't. It's really, we're all here just trying to tell the best story possible. There's someone that has to make a decision, has to someone has to call the shots and say, this is what we're doing, right? Right. Or else we'll be there just going back and forth, right? There's a schedule, there's a deadline, right? It's okay. It's just part of the process. It has nothing to do with you being like, say, a bad editor. That's just very important because I get it. I've been through it, but it's just, again, it's just part of the job.
So I would love to know, what was your first in the industry?
So I'll speak for scripted television. I've had a long career. I've been doing this for now over 20 years. I went to school in Michigan, University of Michigan, majored in film and TV studies. Okay. And it was mostly like, they called it that because it was mostly like theory based. We didn't do like shoot a lot of films, right? It was mostly like writing a lot of essays, watching a lot of films. But I wanted to be a cinematographer initially. And then when I went back to San Diego, I'm from San Diego, I started working in local news because I was in San Diego, was home, and I got a job, I got a paycheck, and I was, had a camera on my shoulder, as a photojournalist, and I was comfortable, right? But it wasn't what I wanted to do. And then eventually I quit my job. I went to New York, and I kind of started working, in the same thing, like shooting and editing. I knew how to edit just to kind of survive, and I worked in news and talk shows and sports, in sizzle reels. I mean, you name it. I think I've done literally everything. But I still had that bug in me. Like, I wanted to like work in film and scripted television. And then I went to LA. So when I got to LA was, I think, like 15 years after I graduated from college, right? And so I got to LA. LA was very tough. It was very hard. I was not getting work. I was getting rejected left and right. And I figured, you know what? I think now's the time to try to go for this like film and TV thing. I'm in LA. I'm not getting any work. So I guess I better just figure this out. Okay. So that's the thing. It's like, so I started just kind of being part of communities, of post-production communities in LA, and going to a lot of events, screenings, networking events, and just trying to kind of immerse myself in that kind of filmmaking community. And so I eventually got a job as an assistant editor. Now, I had never been an assistant. I had been my own assistant, but I got a job as an assistant editor because someone told me, it's like, hey, you got to stop making it about the money, right? You got to, if this is what you want to do, if you want to work in film, you got to like revamp your resume, and you got to go meet these people and work on these types of projects, and, you know, don't make it about the money. Like he said, I was always chasing the money. And, you know, I would get a job in whatever unscripted, you know, they paid me whatever nice rate, and I would just work on this stuff. Nothing wrong with it. It's just not what I wanted to do. But I just kept that cycle going, right? Working on the stuff that I didn't want to work on. So to work in film, I basically had to I was going to have to go work either for free or for a low rate or something, so someone to give me a shot, because I had no experience in film. And so I got a shot as an assistant editor on a union feature film. It was tier 0. It paid peanuts, you know, I couldn't pay my rent, but I was like, oh man, I'm making literally a film in Hollywood, and I'm in this bunker, you know, and I'm making a film, and this is great, right? I loved it. Right. And so from there, obviously, you then start meeting people, and once I got comfortable with that idea of say not making it about the money, then I was just I would go work on other independent projects. And would work a week here and there, on a scripted TV show or whatnot. And then eventually I landed on Narcos Mexico as an assistant editor. That was my big break, right? And the reason I got that was because I had worked as an assistant on a documentary that dealt with the same subject matter, like cartels in Mexico. And they asked me they wanted me to share the documentaries. It was a documentary. The researchers' information with this other show, because I don't know if people have seen it, but Narcos Mexico has a documentary aspect to it, right? And so they needed this researcher for this other project. I didn't know what it was. I kind of did some digging, and I realized this producer was reaching out from Narcos. And I was a huge fan of Narcos, the Colombia version. I said, hey, well, do you need an assistant over there? And they're like, well, do you speak Spanish, and are you in the union? And I said, yes. And so, all right, well, come meet with me on Monday. And then I got the job. And then my career took off from there, right? I was spent 2 years as an assistant editor, and then got bumped up to editor on season 3 of Narcos Mexico. And I've been editing ever since.
So that's pretty much the timeline, is especially someone who wants to work their way up to be an editor, is to find an assistant editor job, or is there even more below that, like a post-production PA or whatnot?
Yeah, so, I guess I kind of missed it earlier, but in editorial, there is, for example, as an editor, you have your assistant editor, right? And so typically every editor on a TV show or on a film will have an assistant. Maybe on a film, bigger budget, we'll have maybe 2 assistants or even 3. Okay. And then you'll have, say, a post-production assistant. They're typically the ones that are out there, getting lunch orders, right? And, getting office supplies and whatnot. Yep. Then you have the post-production coordinator, kind of the next step up. And then you'll have a post-production associate producer. You have a post-producer. So, post-producer is kind of who's running the editorial department, right? Right. An associate producer has more they're just kind of a little bit below the post-producer. So, but they have a lot of more creative input into the show. And so those are the typical roles. You'll have now what's always been around, and it's coming back, is the apprentice editor. And I typically see it as the assistant to the assistant. Okay. But, that's a great role, right? For someone to break in and start learning, right? And not every show has that, but I know the union is trying to bring that role back, Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the typical path is, I mean, I knew right away that for me to become an editor from unscripted to scripted, I knew I was going to have to be an assistant editor. I just knew it. It was going to be really tough for me to transition from an editor in unscripted to an editor in scripted. Okay. I know one person that has done it, and that's it. And so, I still, what I recommend people go that route, and it's important to learn the role of the assistant and have that experience, I think will help you become a better editor, and also as an editor, understand your assistant editor a lot better.
Yeah. And one of my questions is always like, there's no formal handbook on how to do that. So when you first got your assistant editor in, who helped you navigate that?
Well, that's where the role of mentorship, comes in, and another reason why I created my mentorship program, Hollywood Editing Mentor, was because I certainly could not have done this alone. I had a lot of great mentors, and when I, for example, I'll speak for like Narcos Mexico, when I got on there with all the people there that I assisted, they vouched for me. They did everything they could to push me up to become an editor, and as an assistant, they would always have me in the room, like being there. When they were working with a director or a producer, I was always in that room, observing, taking notes. And, I even got to co-edit episodes, right, where I shared an editing credit with my editors, right, because they saw not only that I had talent, but like that they could trust me, right? That's the thing. That was the trust. And a lot of it is based on trust. It's like, I know you can handle these scenes, and you can handle the environment, and you can handle this. Because I was very proactive, I communicated well, and I had that drive. And so at least that's what I think, what I gather. You can ask them, right, what they saw me. But I'm just saying, like, it was them that really had pushed me up and, like, got me, for example, the seat, on season 3 of Narcos Mexico. Yeah. And even now, my mentors are still, like, some of my best friends, and they still support me a lot. And I think in post-production, obviously in film, but I'll speak just for post-production and editorial because that's where I work in. But it's like we rely a lot on mentors, and we need people to vouch for us. This industry is based on relationships. Yeah. And so it is important to have these mentors and build these strong relationships for them to, like, push you up, and get you, like, say, those opportunities. So I'm very thankful to them, like, for giving me that, not only that opportunity, say, or to push me up to become an editor, but to also to learn, to answer all my questions, and, like, being literally in those rooms where, like, you couldn't learn that stuff anywhere else. I mean, it's hard. I mean, like, and I don't think even a film school can teach you that.
This is actually a perfect time because you brought up a good point about going from unscripted to then scripted. And one of my listeners, his name's Michael, he asked, is it common to get pigeonholed into either TV, reality, or movies, and how to go about that if you have one desire to be in a particular one?
Great question. Yes, pigeonholing. That is a thing. That is a thing. I'll start with, like, the reality or, like, unscripted, say, part of it, like transitioning to scripted. There's a lot of people that want to do that, myself included. And yes, unfortunately, there's this idea that exists that I guess, like, unscripted people can't do the work of, like,
They're like, let me look at the credits. They've never done a film before, so I don't know if we can go with them.
Unfortunately, like, I don't agree with that.
Same with directors. I see it a lot.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, my advice is, like, for example, is kind of like, say, what I did, right? It's like to go and get that experience, right? What I did was, like, I worked on, say, as an assistant on that feature I mentioned. But, like, I also went off and, like, cut my own, like, short films. I cut a full feature film, in indie, obviously. But I started doing my own project. So basically, I started assuming, even though I was not working, say, in a scripted job, like, I just kind of assumed that role by doing my own project. So I just kind of, like, started selling myself as a scripted assistant editor, right? And I believed it, right? And then anything that I presented, say, as far as, like, my resume, everything, I spoke, like, as I was an assistant editor. This is what I do, right? And that's how I was kind of been able to kind of get in kind of those circles or get those jobs, because I just was now kind of, again, I was getting that experience. It was enough experience to at least kind of get your attention. And then everything else was kind of also just me being good at, like, just networking and communicating and very good at selling myself. Like, I will say that I'm very good at that, and that's the thing. It was like, I wasn't lying ever, right? But I just was able to talk myself up, and I was very confident. And even though, for example, like, as an assistant, like, I when I got to Narcos Mexico, like, I didn't know everything about being an assistant and working in Avid, right? Actually, I was terrified, but I was like, I'm confident that I can figure it out. I know that I'm good with computers, and I'll figure it out. And then, with time, like, I'm still learning stuff about Avid, for example, right? But, like, it was like, all right, I know I got this. Like I feel confident, and even though I don't know everything, there's a way to figure it out. I mean, I learned, obviously, there's a lot more resources now, say, for example, to learn the job of an assistant editor in scripted. So, there's many more tools, say, than when I started out.
Yeah.
So as far as the skills, like, I'm going to say it's easy. It's out there. You can go figure that out. So focus more on, like, just kind of the networking and how you sell yourself. But yes, I mean, like, even like, for example, the types of projects that I work on, I mean, I could easily get pigeonholed into working, say, just on, shows about Mexican cartels, and it happens, yes.
Wow. Yeah.
And or if you, not even that, but like you cut comedy, you cut drama, you cut food shows, food competition shows. Like I get it from the point of view of a producer.
Yeah.
But I think as an editor, and a good editor especially, you're able to kind of pivot and like adapt to. In the end, you're telling a story, right?
Yeah.
But it's important also as an editor, when you are navigating your career, to be mindful of that. To be like, all right, I'm going to go now. I've been working in drama. Maybe I'm going to go work now in comedy or try to get that,
Yeah.
And so, yes, it is important to be, it is a thing. But, again, it's about having a strategy on how to avoid, getting pigeonholed.
Right. That sounds, it's so hard in the beginning too, right? Like you're just hoping for any opportunity. But you're also like, okay, I understand this is how the industry works and how producers choose you, so that's so hard.
Well, that's a really good point because yes, when you are starting out, you're very likely, you're probably going to be taking any job that you can, and so you have to be able to determine when it's that time to kind of get away from that and now kind of carve out the path that you want, because at some point you got to get away from that, right? But the beginning, it's normal. You're going to probably be taking, literally, you should probably be taking any job that you can.
Especially in today's time.
Right? And building those contacts, that credits, and then at some point, just all right, I want to go this way,
Yeah.
and make it an effort to go in that direction.
Right. And a bonus question, is the Avid still like the Hollywood standard of how everyone edits?
Yes, I would still say that Avid is the industry standard. I feel that, I think it's possible that might change, in the future. I don't see it happening yet, but, I could see, like, for example, Premiere and, like, Blackmagic trying to kind of get in there.
Yeah.
Take some of that market share away, but I don't see that happening for quite a while or if ever. So, yes, because that's the one question I get a lot is, like, do I need to know Avid? I'm like, yes, if you want to work in union, projects, whether it be, I think, scripted or unscripted, like, and work, like, say, in LA, New York, like, you need to learn Avid for sure. Yeah.
And then as an assistant editor, do you need to be in the union?
If you want to work on union projects, you do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I remember talking to you about that when I was a mentee of yours, and you were like, get in the union, do this and that. I was like, oh gosh, okay, good to know. Again, things they didn't tell you.
Look, to this day, it's like, that's one of, I mean, it still amazes me that people have so many still questions about the union. In fact, like when I started Hollywood Editing Mentor and my YouTube channel, my first video was how to join the union, right? Because I didn't know about the union. When I got to LA, I didn't know anything about the union. And I remember I met a guy at a bar where someone introduced me to him, and we're just chatting, and he's, hey, so have you joined the union? I'm like, what union? Like, I didn't know. And so I made this video, and of course it's my most popular video, and I still get questions about the union. So I get it. Yeah. But yes, if you have to work, if you want to work, obviously, union projects, so you have to join first the roster, right? The roster, you have to qualify for the roster. And then that enables you to then join the union, right?
Yeah.
But go watch my video. Like I explained, I go into it.
I was about to say, Joaquin has Hollywood Editing Mentor, and he has YouTube. He's on all the podcast platforms, and he deep dives into so many different things. And that's how I found him, and he was so helpful to me. So definitely go and check his other videos out because he has a lot of information on there for you.
A lot.
So how to excel in the role. And I always ask, what are different traits that make someone excel? And you definitely already hit on a lot of just, time management, and then also how to navigate not taking things personally, but then also having this confidence and this voice, so any other traits?
But a lot of patience for sure, a lot of patience. you're not always going to be in the ideal situation and maybe that you think that you would want to be in and creatively maybe, you know, and so just got to be really patient with communication and ideas being shared and whatnot and being able to manage that. Communication, I mean, in general, I mean, like, it's so important. I mean, like, that's, you know, something that's so simple when we talk about it, but I think most people don't get it, you know, and it's a challenge for all of us. I'll speak for myself. Like, it's not easy, but yes, that's important to be able to communicate ideas, to communicate also who you are, because a lot of it, again, is this is based on relationships, right? And so people want to know, we work, you know, we're working long hours and we're collaborating, sharing ideas, and this is an intense job. And so we want to know who we're working with. You know, especially if you want to break in, like, people want to know. It's like, okay, well, what are you into, right? We don't always want to be talking about work. It's like, what are you into? What do you like? What did you do this past weekend? Like, one of the pieces of advice that I got, you know, I got a lot of advice, but, you know, something that was told to me by a really big editor was like to not be the quiet one, especially as an assistant editor and as an editor as well, and just in general. It's like you have to be out there, like, communicating with people. Like, don't be a lurker. Right. And I hear that a lot from people. It's like, oh, I'm a lurker. I just like to observe. But like, I'm like, yeah, man, I get it, but it's not going to help you. Right. If you are trying to advance in this career, you have to have a voice. And again, it's not only necessarily about work, but just like in general, like, you know, share what you did, like, contribute something to the conversation, like something funny or, you know, anything, but just so people always know that you're there, because it's very easy. And trust me, I've been through this as far as, like, you know, I've seen this happen. Yeah. Where it's like, you have coworkers, for example, but you're like, forget about them because they never speak. Or in this case now, like, they never share a message on the Slack, you know, because we communicate through Slack now, we're working from home. But like, it's like, so who are you? Like, for example, I try to make an effort to, like, when I got on the show, it's like, all right, I'm going to message people, but also like, hey, can we jump on a phone call or Zoom call real quick? I just want to say hi. This is who I am. Yeah. What's up? Who are you? Like, I've seen you worked on this. Like, do it once, you know, right? And it's like, but people know you, get to know you. But in general, just communication, right? And people, for example, as an assistant, that, you know, you're going to be asked, well, what do you think? Right? That's also, there's an art to that, right? To say, you're not going to say, well, I don't like that, you know, to your editor. You know, it's like, you got to know how to deliver that, right? But it's important that you say something, and you don't want to also necessarily, like, just lie and be like, oh, you know, but, you know, you learn how to communicate. Oh, you know what? Maybe, you know what? I felt this kind of threw me off a bit, you know, that this, I don't know. I didn't understand that, or, you know, okay, very helpful for us. Like, I'm always looking for, tell me what you think. I don't care. Like, hey, does it suck? I don't care. Just tell me what you think, 'cause I need eyes on this. Right. I don't know what to think anymore. Yeah. And perseverance, I mean, like, and just resilience, because especially nowadays, things are different. You know, a lot of us know, you know, times have changed, the industry has changed, and, you know, you got to love this stuff. It is a demanding job, and it's tough, and you got to love it. You got to love it, but if you love it, like, you'll do it. You'll find a way, and honestly, like, no matter how much you fail or you come across obstacles, you got to push through. You got to push through, and you got to learn from those mistakes or those failures, and use that to fuel you to keep moving forward. Because trust me, like, I couldn't do anything else. I love this stuff, and I thought about it. It's like, what else could I do? And I don't think of anything. Like, I love this, and I'm gonna figure it out any way that I can to just keep pushing through. And so that's also very, very, very important.
Yeah, that was all so good, and that was even a mix of, like, different hard truths. And to my listeners who are confused, because I did a self-podcast of how I'm a producer assistant, but in college, my niche was editing, and I still have a love for editing. But there is this common thought that editors, they like to just be in the edit room and not talk to people, right? Like, they're just in a dark room. They can just be one with the footage. But like you said, no, you actually need to have those communication skills, and that's a part of it.
I think it goes back to your earlier question about what a misconception is. Like, yeah, I mean, like, yes, I think that's one of the things that I liked about, say, editing, was that I could be in a room and, like, being creative, and versus like being on set. I don't like to be on set. I do not like it. And so this is the environment that I love. But that doesn't mean that I just want to literally sit here every day and, like, not have any, you know, contact with the outside world. No, I want to collaborate. In fact, that's where I thrive the most. It's when I have someone else to bounce ideas off of, you know?
Yeah.
And so, no, I didn't. I think honestly, when you get editors like in like a social environment, they're the most loud, and we love to party. We love to party. It's like, no, we're not necessarily. No, we're not. We could be a little bit introverted, but no, we're. It's not that. It's like, no, you just like to sit in your dark room, like. I mean, sometimes. I mean, for a couple of hours, but then after that, I want to. I want
to see light. I want to see people. I want to talk.
Because I want to talk. I want to have a good time, and but more than anything, I want to collaborate. That's the thing. Because then I learn things, and someone else learns something from me, and it's. I mean, and that's the one thing. For example, like I miss now working from home. One of the things I miss is working at the office. I love it. I love the office. Like, I mean, like working with a team and being, calling someone else to come in. Hey, come in here, take a look at this scene. What do you think? Or like the whole team getting lunch, and I love that stuff and I miss it. So that's another thing that has changed a lot.
Yeah.
But not completely. I mean, like, we still have our kind of hybrid setups where we'll do like some days at home and some days at the office.
So everything's virtual. Like, now you're remote.
For the most part, yeah. For the most part, I mean, editors are typically, I think, are going to be asked to be at the office, either hybrid, like I said, or sometimes full time.
Yeah.
Assistants, I typically see still being remote, and therefore like being all around the country, all around the world.
Wow.
It's very rare for me nowadays to see like an assistant being asked to come into the office. Although, again, I have heard it, but it's not very common anymore. And that's the thing, kind of goes with, mentorship. And then unfortunately, what has been lost is that ability now to be in an office, in a room, and learning, say, what I learned, what I talked about is being in those sessions. There's ways to do it now. For example, I typically have my assistant on my laptop here, and so they're there, and they can see people, they can see him, and listen. But it's not like before where it's like literally in here, next to you, or whatever. You're there for hours and just observing, and people are actually seeing you in person there. It's very different than through a computer.
And then I'm assuming, I'm sure you're going to say yes, but like you get a kit rental and everything. So basically, are they supplying you anything, or it's like, here's my computer, here's how I edit, and they're just giving you that kit rental?
Yeah, I mean, I've had both experiences where I've used my own equipment, and then where I've just get all the equipment from the production. Okay. And they just like, well, what do you need? And then you get it delivered to your home. And then you'll have two systems. Like you'll have a system here at home, and then you'll have a system at the office,
Wow. I'm just trying to think of that dynamic of everyone being remote and how you get all the footage you need and how you get all the things you need to edit. I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, obviously now since the pandemic, I mean, those systems have been like, further developed and fine-tuned. In the pandemic, I literally just went home with a hard drive, and we were sharing like, Avid bins, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
But now it's different, it's much more efficient. So, I mean, like it works. I like being able to have at least some days in the office,
But like you said, that collaboration that's needed.
Yeah.
Before I move on, was there a different hard truth that you wanted to say?
Look, the reality, is that this industry has changed. And what does that mean as far as like I'll speak again for post-production. Yeah, there's a lot of people out of work. I went through my period of unemployment, and I think at some point everyone's getting it or going through it, unfortunately. But I do not think, and obviously no one knows what is going to happen, but I don't think this industry is dead by any means. Is it going to be a lot more competitive? I think so. I think it's safe to say. But you know what? That's the thing. This job, I mean, this industry historically has always been like this. I mean, like this hasn't been, I think in any creative profession, you have to understand that it's not easy. I mean, it's not like we don't have a normal job, Yeah. That's the thing. You can't expect to just be here and like, I'm just going to work, 12 months out of the year. No. I never thought that. That's no way, right? Yeah. And so it is going to be a roller coaster, and you have to be prepared for that. That's why, like, through my Hollywood editing mentor, I talk a lot about money and financial management, because that's so important. Literally save money and how to navigate all that, Yeah. But understand that, this is just not something that you just kind of keep working constantly. You can't expect that, right? By me saying this, I'm not trying to discourage anyone from pursuing this career. I'm just being real about what's out there, right? And that you're going to have to really stand out because it's uber competitive. Like it's super competitive right now. So you have to find a way to stand out from the rest of the pack, from the rest of the crowd, right? You have to stand out. And it's all, again, having a voice, and even goes to like how you send cold outreach emails to people, how you network, how you write your resume, how you do your website. I mean, all these things, right? Yeah. And it's constant work. And even now, say me, where I'm a little bit more established as an editor, I still have to network. It doesn't end. It's a grind. Trust me, it just never ends. But what keeps me in this is because I love this, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like, is it challenge? Can it be challenging? Absolutely. But I push through because, again, I just enjoy this so much and I want to do it.
Yeah, that's good advice. It's like, know your why and then remember your why
exactly.
through the battle, because that's the only thing that will push you through. And I've even struggled with that too, because I mean, it's a feast or famine kind of industry. Like you said, we know what it is, and yet even when we don't have work, though, it still hits us,
Absolutely.
And it's very common to forget your why, but you have to remember your why to bring you back and keep the fight on, for sure.
Totally. I totally agree. I mean, and look at, like, again, I was out of work for, through the strikes and whatnot for a while. And I went through, I ended up in therapy, I mean, like, it was, what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. And I know, unfortunately, a lot of people and friends that are going through it right now. But, here I am. Like, I've been now, thankfully, working this whole year and very grateful. But, a year ago or whatever, I didn't see this. That's it. I mean, I questioned. I was like, is my career over? Like, is this it? And I know a lot of people have that same question. It's like, is it over for me? What else am I going to do? Well, I don't know. I don't know what else can I do. I got to figure.
What are my other skills?
Like, I got to figure this out, right? And so, anyways, that's a whole other conversation, But I'm saying, like, I kept myself in the game, And then it's like, all right, cool. Like, things. I think, like I said, like in general in life, like things will just sort themselves out. Like it just, just got to believe and trust the process.
Trust the process. And when you get that opportunity, like you said, work really hard. You have to.
That's the thing.
You cannot not work hard.
Well, that's the other thing I was saying. Obviously I always work hard, but I think it's even more important now, right? To really kind of over deliver and be proactive and show them that you're an asset to the team, and that that they need you, right? And they keep you around, and then they take you on to the next project, refer you to the next project, But you just gotta really stand out,
Yeah, and that's always my piece of advice too for people: is no matter what role you're doing, I don't care if you're getting the lunch for the office, like you need to do it and do it well. And that's when they see that work ethic, and when they see you shine in those ways, they will think of you. If other opportunities arise. That
is such a good point. And look, that's the thing about getting lunches for like a post production assistant. It's like, it's so important. I mean, I've seen people who don't get the lunch orders correctly. And trust me,
that's
it reflects so badly on you. Trust me, it does. It does. And so, and then the people that do get it right, it's like, okay, like, it's you just have it, because it's not about the lunch. It's not about the lunch.
Yeah.
It's it's about how well can you do a job, like and that's the thing, and that's where it starts. And but yes, excellent point. I'm glad you brought that up.
You said that in December your new show is coming out, The Abandons, correct?
Yeah, The Abandons. It's a new series for Netflix that comes out now December 4th. They released the premiere date. Yeah, I'm so excited. It's a period western. It's something that I guess I kind of worked on already when I worked on Dark Winds, but it just takes place in the 1800s, and it has a great cast. I can't wait for everyone to check it out. It was a great experience with a great team, and again, just happy to have been able to been a part of it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. Seriously, this was very, very insightful.
Well, thank you, Lexi. It's a pleasure being here.
Thanks for listening to Film Ladder. I hope this episode brought you one step closer to understanding the many paths through the film industry. If you like this episode, consider subscribing, leaving a review, or sharing with someone else also navigating their next step. Until then, keep climbing.